Reacting to the final day of the Premier League, we have to start off with first down to seventh. It was crazy in the race for the Champions League positions. A very quick word on Liverpool, who drew 1-1 with Crystal Palace. Mohamed Salah picks up the golden boot. I think there is an observation there that they got 84 points this season. Yes, they won the title so early that they could afford to drop a few points. So maybe if they'd been pushed by Arsenal or Man City a little bit more, they'd be approaching the 90-point range. But if you look at 84 points, you think actually one of the lowest points totals in the last 10 years, which is a big statement for Arne Slot, that in the next 3 or 4 months in the transfer window, Liverpool can go again. Obviously, I've talked about foreign inverts on this channel, but what I'm trying to say is there's room for improvement. Obviously, there was an emotional send-off for Trent. There's obviously the celebrations of lifting the Premier League title. Salah scored a beautiful little scissor kick. It was a bit like Di Canio, a little bit of a scissor kick in between, in the middle of the penalty box to get Liverpool back in it so they didn't lose their final game of the season. But, Salah with, 18 assists, 29 goals. These are mesmeric football numbers, especially in the Premier League. I mean, you just don't see these kind of numbers, particularly from a right winger. This season, Salah has cemented himself as one of the Premier League all-time greats. I think there's still a debate there in terms of him and Ronaldo, in terms of him and maybe Ryan Giggs and a few other wingers, maybe Riyad Mahrez. But he's cemented himself in those discussions beyond any doubt now. And this season's been absolutely incredible. And getting Liverpool back into a situation where they don't lose their final game. A small but important goal. 29 goals this season. Surely his second best season since he came to the club at the start of his Liverpool career. Where he scored 3 goals more, I think, to get 32 goals. Which is the record at the time. Again, I think 84 points is quite a low points total. But it actually alludes to the fact there wasn't much of a title race because of Arsenal this season. They will improve next season. I think Liverpool will go big in the transfer market. They won't just be looking to retain the Premier League, which they've never done in the Premier League era. A massive achievement for anyone that can do it. But going for the Champions League as well. But leave your comments down below if you agree with me on that one. Arsenal came 10 points behind Liverpool. Again, a lot of these games are a little bit dead. They're a little bit flat. Because there wasn't a title race, because Arsenal were focusing on the Champions League, don't get me wrong. But still, 10 points isn't as bad as it could have been. 15, 18, 21 points at one stage. There was a massive gap opening up if Arsenal hadn't stopped the rot. They did do that. They picked up a win against Southampton. They'll be thinking that they can go again next season. They really will. It'll be a big, big ask. They're going to have to change their mentality. They're going to have to bring in 2 or 3 exceptionally world-class players. Not squad players that can play left back one day, right back the next. They're going to need a top-class midfielder, top-class striker, and maybe a top-class defender as well to get in there and just mix it up, especially if they lose one. A left winger as well, top-class left winger. And you feel that Arsenal actually is not as bad as it maybe looks. It's not been a great season. It's been a par season. But 10 points behind Liverpool, they come second. Let's just switch it up, talk about the games at the bottom end of the top 7. I've put the table somewhere on this video. I'm probably going to remove it now. Nottingham Forest have come 7th. I can't believe it. There'll be a period of time where they'll look back and think if they'd beaten Leicester City, those extra 2 points would have taken them basically, in and around the Champions League positions. It's hard to work out as I'm doing this video. Above Newcastle United, so they would have got into the Champions League if they'd beaten Leicester City. Obviously, it's the butterfly effect. Things could have changed. And ultimately, it's an amazing season nonetheless. To get into European football for Nottingham Forest is an amazing season because they know they got relegated last season. But football changes. If you're winning a race for 90% of it, even if you're racing against Usain Bolt, if you've got a 90% lead against someone like Usain Bolt, it doesn't matter if he's the greatest runner of all time. You have to maximise where you are in the race and try and win it from there. And Nottingham Forest, I think, failed to pick up back-to-back consecutive wins in the Premier League after their great run in January to get them in a kind of semi-title race. I think at points when I watched them against Chelsea, I think it was a very obvious moment of why Nottingham Forest couldn't get into the Champions League positions, and Chelsea could just about float through. Man City could float through despite not being very good. I'd say it's down to what they did on the ball. Now, Gibbs White is fantastic on the ball, but for me, Elliot Anderson's been good this season, a little bit limited. I know they like to bomb it long into their wingers and whip it into Chris Wood. Chris Wood's finish into the game today against Chelsea was really poor. 3 big chances that went into row Z, and he's been off it in the last few weeks. I know he's had a bit of a knock as well, and the Awoniyi situation is obviously really bad for Nottingham Forest, and it's not their fault. Ultimately, they don't control games well enough. They're a little bit too one-dimensional in big moments throughout the season, in my honest opinion. And you look at what Chelsea have managed to do in the last 5 or 6 games. They're winning 4 or 5 in the last 6. A poor result against Newcastle United, but everything else. Man United was fantastic. And Forest today, Chelsea were fantastic. Chelsea made it into the Champions League. It's a big moment for them. You feel it's the first time that the Todd Bowley era has seen Champions League football. And ultimately, obviously, they had that little bit where they took over midway through the season and they had a bit of Graham Potter, etc. This is the first time they've managed to get Chelsea into the Champions League in a full season. You feel that they got the ambition, the money to spend a lot in the summer and try go again. And that they'll be in a competitive market with Man City, with Liverpool, with Arsenal for players. And they will be in a semi-title race at the start of next season. Mark my words. I'm not saying it's going to be easy for Chelsea. You've got some gaping holes in the goalkeeper department, centre-back department, maybe even another midfielder alongside Palmer. The 2 wingers I don't think are near good enough. But you have to say massive congratulations to Enzo Maresca, who I don't think is necessarily the right manager to take them on to the next level. But he's got Chelsea back into the Champions League, a sleeping giant, arguably, of European football. 2-time European winners. They're back into the Champions League. Small observation about Newcastle United. They've lost to Everton, who have such a poor record at St James's Park. It was a brilliant goal from Alcaraz, I think it was, from Everton. Nonetheless, Newcastle United won a League Cup. Newcastle United haven't won a trophy in 75 years. Then they go and beat Liverpool, the champions of England, in a cup final, and then they get back into the Champions League, surpassing Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest, who are far better than them, arguably for, certainly an early part of the season. Newcastle United, absolutely fantastic. Tonali, Isak, Bruno, Botman, Shah, Pope was fantastic in the sticks as well. If Newcastle United can spend a bit more now they've got the Champions League revenue, I don't know enough about accounting and what can happen in terms of that department. If they can keep Isak fit, if they can get Bruno, Tonali, an extra couple of men in and around them, I think they've got better wingers than Arsenal, for example. I think Gordon and Barnes is better than Martinelli and Saka. Saka's a better player than all of them, but you know what I'm trying to say? I think Newcastle United have got the bones of a squad that is pushing the likes of Arsenal, is pushing the likes of Chelsea. I think Newcastle can have a run at trying to win the title next season. I'm not saying it's easy, but the Botman's fantastic. Shah's fantastic. They've got a lot of quality in there, especially Trippier, if he stays, experience, Livramento, if he can stay. So Newcastle United deserve a round of applause. If it isn't Arne Slot manager of the season, it's Eddie Howe. Newcastle come 5th. They've snuck into the Champions League despite losing. Aston Villa versus Manchester United. I mean, Aston Villa will be pulling their hair out. Firstly, for not being able to beat Manchester United, regardless of refereeing decisions, regardless of anything else. Their keeper bottled it. Big decision against Højlund. The referee got that right. Their keeper shouldn't be doing that. And their keeper, Emi Martinez, completely bottled it. I actually think in the last 3 or 4 months, he's actually been poor from when I've seen him. In big moments, he's a good shot stopper, but his head can go a little bit, and he's cost arguably Aston Villa a big chance of getting into the game, beating Manchester United. The extra couple of points could have taken them into the Champions League positions. Well, it would have, literally would have. Man United have scored 2 goals. Amad Diallo, a penalty as well from Ericsson. They know the gave to Johnny Evans. I mean, that'd be really taking the piss. But it's the refereeing decision. Bayandir, the goalkeeper for Manchester United, isn't in control of the ball. Morgan Rogers nicks it away from him, and scores in an open net, and the referee pulls it back. The referee blows up too early. It's a disgraceful decision, and it could have cost Aston Villa £200 million. The only shed of light in this situation is that Aston Villa were never going to win the Champions League next season. You'd rather play Bayern Munich or you'd rather play Barcelona week in, week out. I get that, and that is spot on. But in the latter rounds of the Champions League, Aston Villa wouldn't be able to compete. They just wouldn't. And ultimately in the Europa League, now that there's no Champions League sides dropping down, they will have a big opportunity to win that, arguably with the greatest Europa League winning manager in history. So it might not be the worst thing in the world. I think Aston Villa fans would rather have silverware than a quarter-final run, a semi-final run, which seems unlikely as well, with all due respect to Aston Villa, just because they're competing against behemoths of Champions League football. Still, the decision was a disgrace. And then just a final word on Man City. I'm so gassed because it's been a really poor season, and losing to Fulham could have really cost the club in a big way. Being in the Europa League, it would have stung. It would have slowed the project down of trying to get back to the summit of English football. Ilkay Gundogan with this unbelievable bicycle kick, very similar to the one that he scored in the title run-in a few years ago against Everton at Goodison Park. It was outrageous. So it's a big moment for him. It's a big moment for De Bruyne, his final game for Manchester City. It's a sad moment, of course. But ultimately, I think you have to look at Man City next season. Will be a major, major force. I'm so gassed about how Marmoush has come in. He scored more goals this season than Saka. I think Diaz, Gvardiol, Rodri, Haaland. There's so much quality there. I'm backing Man City to have a go next season. I'm looking forward to it in a big, big way. Only 3 points off Arsenal as well, with more wins in the Premier League title. There you have it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below about the final day of the season. Forest in the Europa Conference League. At least it's European football, nonetheless. And everyone else, they're into something else. I mean, it's craziness. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And I'll see you very, very soon.